Hey YouTube. So today I want to take the hose off of there for the bucket cylinder, because if I don't and get it fixed, I can't really use that thumb because the hose is getting ready to burst. The problem, or I guess it's not a problem, but the design of this thing is the hoses are coming from the control valves into the bottom of the boom. And the boom here has metal lines that run, 4 of them, up through the boom. 2 of them attach here, and 2 of them attach up there. One is for the crowd cylinder, the other one is for the bucket cylinder. So the issue here is that I can't stretch everything out and lay it down to get that bucket cylinder hose off, because I can't get a wrench on the line if I do. So even though the one that's out here is easy to get at, this isn't that problem. It's this one up here. I can get at it, but I can get at it now. But when the boom was all the way stretched out, this piece comes down here and you can't get it. So this is what we have. Now the only thing is the way I have this, when I relieve the pressure off of this, I'm not sure. This should push the cylinder out. It may give me some oil back here, and it may curl the bucket. So I just want to watch what's going on here. I'm going to loosen this up and see what happens. Well, that's tight enough. I'm going to have to get a pipe on here. That one's loose, so I can't get that top one loose the way I'm standing there. So I'm going to get a convincer of some sort to loosen that up. I'll be back. You can see, I think, that I had to raise the machine up even higher. That's the fitting I'm trying to get at there, and it's not breaking loose so easily. The other one was fine, but that one's not. So I'm going to try putting a little bit of heat on it to see if that doesn't help. Hey guys, so I had to bring the backhoe over this way, and I folded it up a little differently to try to get at that fitting. The good part was that it came down a little lower, but not, I still had to be on a ladder, and that's what it looked like when it's off. And that pipe, like I say, runs down through the whole boom. The thing is I could not get that broken loose, but what I did was I heated it with an oxy torch just till it turned red a little, in a little spot on the nut of the, let's see, it was this nut right here. Just heated it a little bit. I still could not turn it off, but luckily my neighbor came, and the guy's like 51 or so, so he stopped by, and he got up on that ladder and he broke it loose. So sometimes you don't realize as you're growing older, you're growing weaker. Smarter, but weaker. So anyway, that's the hose that has to be replaced. And Napa's closed today. It's Sunday afternoon already, so I'm not going to be able to get that taken care of, but I will. Probably looking at about 120 bucks for that thing. Hope they don't hear me. Anyway, guys, it's another job that has to be done on the old homestead, if you want to call it that, or whatever. Have a good one. So I guess you can see we're having some snow flurries. It's not going to amount to much because the clouds are thin. No sun. There was a little sun this morning, but so just so you know, I mean, I can't run the backhoe right now, but I was fooling around with that log for a couple minutes yesterday, and I like the way that the it's only a little thing, but I like the way that that thumb works. So I think it's going to come in handy for a lot of different things. I may as well take a look at the kiln while I'm over here. Yeah, the sun was out a little bit, so the temperature there is up to 60 in the kiln, but the relative humidity is very high, so it looks like, I think it's 70 in there. It still is drying just because of the wind moving in there, but it's still, you know, not drying like it could if there was sun. See, if the sun would be hot enough, warm that up enough, I could open the vents and take some of that moisture out of there, but it's not going to do me any good right now, especially with the relative humidity higher outside. So I'm going to leave it go. When you hook up battery cables from a battery charger, you should hook the wires to the battery first. For people who don't know, I know a lot of you guys know. Hook the wires to the battery first and then plug the charger in. Because, you should get in the habit of doing that when you unplug it, because I have had batteries blow up in my face already. So if you take the plug out the charger first, and then unplug and then take the wires off, you'll be okay. But if you leave the charger plugged in when you take the wires off, you may get a spark there. And since I think there's hydrogen, I think it is, coming out of the battery when you charge it, you could have an explosion. I've seen many of them go, believe me. Hey YouTube. You know, the good thing about YouTube that I found out is that when you run out of information, or let's say not information, when you run out of videos in your own mind, all you gotta do is read the comments, and you can always, you know, extensively answer a question or two, or even a comment about something. And not long ago, I was after I ate lunch, and after my neighbor helped me with this stupid pipe that I couldn't get apart, I had gotten a comment from Quality Engineers. Now, I don't know if the guy's a real engineer or not. I assume from his pictures that he was a project manager and possibly an engineer, because that's what a lot of engineers become. So I'm going to just go with that as being true. Now, he has mentioned that from what he has learned in welding, that when I welded the, let me zoom in there a little. I can't open it up right now because of the weight of, I can't move the machine because I'll lose hydraulic oil. But he said you shouldn't weld across the top of that back plate. You should only weld down the sides. Now, I guess in defense of that, what I'll say is this. I did it out of necessity when I welded the top there, because I couldn't hold that thing anymore. And because this whole thing is tapered, I was having a hard time trying to clamp it. So I put a stitch on the top here, but if you look there, and I'll just zoom in from here, you can see that it's not welded along the whole top. Okay, now I don't profess to be a great welder, but I do know if a weld's going to work or not pretty much by looking at it. Now again, you know, you can take that with a grain of salt. I'm not a professional welder, I never claimed to be, but I've welded this bucket many times, and you know, throughout its life, and it's always stayed together for me. But anyway, I want to get to the point that he was talking about. He had mentioned that if you weld across, like let's say across this way on the boom, that it's possible that you weaken that and make a place, especially with the what you got there is you're pushing this direction when you close, you know, the bucket onto a log. You'd be pushing into that weld. And I did think about that, and I do worry about it because I like this machine. I don't want anything to happen to it. So I started looking at it, and I think he makes a good point. But let me just show you what Ford has done here in that same line of thinking. Now, if you look at this boom, it's a lot thinner here than it is up there. So you would think to yourself, well, at the very base, I mean, it's holding all of the weight of the machine, all of the weight that it picks up, yet it's only got small amount of metal there. So then as you look up the beam, it tends to widen, and with the thinking of the guy from Quality, there is a weld bead that runs totally across this boom. But at that point, the boom also widens this direction, okay, it widens this way, as well as, look at the massive size. It went from, you know, just standing here, I can tell you that that's probably 8 inches, and this is at least 18 inches up here, at least what they've built. And to reinforce that, besides the welds that they have there, and the size of the thickness of that, this whole thing is like a box beam, this whole boom here. But here's the thing, they reinforce it with this gusset on both sides, and then if you look really close, you find out that not only that, but there's a box beam in the bottom here, and then there's a second one, or yeah, a second one on the top that's welded into this plate here. So I think that the idea behind, you know, having a weak point on a weld that's going to be across the boom from, you know, from the camera that direction is a valid one. And you can see that wherever that took place, Ford did something about it. Now, it's ironic because if you look, now that's one spot, okay? So I'm not going to look too many places, but look at this one. Now here, they welded across this beam here, but look at the difference. And down here, it's like, that's no more than 5 inches wide, okay? Up at the top, it's no more than 5 inches wide, but yet in the middle there, that thing's got to be, I don't know, you're looking at 4, 8, that's probably 10 inches wide right there. And look at the size of the gusset that they put on the side of that thing to help keep it straight. you know, to help keep the bucket from moving side to side. And I have to say that this thing has been running for 30 some years, and I have not exactly babied it. I don't beat the crap out of it, but I didn't baby it. And I used it for whatever I had to. And it's very nice and straight yet. I don't have a problem grading with it, you know, when I'm on something that this rubber tire machine can grade. But it's the difference between, you know, what can and what cannot happen. Same thing, this piece that they have in here, that it's like a big oval that holds the arms straight and helps to take the load, you know, simultaneously into both arms, regardless of where it is in the bucket. I think it's fantastic. But nonetheless, the thinking with this tooth here, or this thumb I should say, is that with those thoughts in mind and the thing that he brought up, I think the best thing to do would be, instead of using the very end pinhole, probably the lower pinhole would keep the stress down lower on the boom. Okay, but even so, I mean, just the fact that we are at a thinner part of the boom, or the crowd, this is called the crowd or a dipper stick. So either the crowd, because we're down further on the crowd where it's narrow and we have a pinhole in there, it's kind of like, think of a plumbing hole through a joist. You know, you're only allowed to have so much of that take place before you weaken this thing considerably. So I know this is slightly different because it's a box beam, but nonetheless, you know, you got to think about that. So when I said before that I think I'm going to put the pin in the middle hole every time I use it, and I sort of was leaning towards that yesterday when I talked about where I would put the pin. And another guy, I think John John Hammock, I believe his name is, had said to me that you know, you can always move the pin to make it wider or not. I'm sucking on a cough drop, guys. So here's the thing, and what I had said to him was, once you put the pin in, you ain't going to want to get out of the machine again to readjust it. So I think that every time I put the thumb on, I'm going to put it in the middle one, which will keep pressure against the whole plate rather than like the very end where it was welded. So I'm not saying that you cannot weld across that, because I don't know whether it would affect it that much or not. But I'm not saying that it won't either. It's a valid point. And it's one thing I know, when any engineer comes up with something, even though a lot of engineers are a little overcautious, there's no reason to not look at it at least and think about it. So I have done that, and I am. Now, the problem with this thing here is I could probably put another plate on the side of the boom right there on each side to stiffen that up. That would help, because that's what Ford did up here. They did it over here. And this fitting here, naturally, they welded that on just so they had a good, you know, pinhole for their boom, or for the crowd. But the thing is it's something to think about. So I appreciate comments like that, because, again, you know, I do a lot of different things, and you can't know everything about everything. So, but you can be knowledgeable enough to do things without worrying about it. Now, I'm not really worried about this because of one thing. I'm not letting nobody use this backhoe without me being in the operator's seat and that thumb, because I know that thumb can destroy the machine if you're not careful with it. So all I want to do is just put enough tension on stuff to pick it up. That's all. In fact, getting it to lay against the teeth is the key to picking up a lot of that stuff, you know. You know, talking about welding, I need to fill this bucket up again. The wear plates are wearing down on it, and I really should beef that stuff up. I think I'll do that this summer, and I should put some new side cutters on there, because the ones that are on there are wearing down pretty well. But anyway, guys, I just thought I'd let you see that, and if you read the comment, you know what he's talking about. I think I got what he's talking about. I hope I did. And like I say, it's something to consider. If you have a smaller machine, you know, when it's not quite built like this, you may want to go, you know, proceed with caution and do a little bit of talking to some welders or somebody that would understand, you know, what the stresses on the metal are. But you can see the size of some of these plates. I mean, this plate that's on here that connects the boom and the crowd is huge, huge, and it's all like 3/8 or more steel. Let me look at that a little closer. Yeah, that's 3/8. So, you know, it's one of those things you gotta consider as you're doing stuff. Can't say that I've never failed at something, because I have. I've, you know, tried to build stuff and it just would not work. So, but since this thing I'm assuming was tried and tested before they started shipping them out, you know, it's something to look at. But you never know. So that's just the comment that I wanted to add to this video. And you'll be happy to know that the battery on the dump truck is starting to absorb some energy. It didn't register completely dead when I checked it today. So hopefully I can charge that thing up good. Okay guys, that's it for today, I guess. You know guys, when you start to do a lot of sawing, you become aware of the trees that are around you. Check this out. That's about a, I don't know, 14 or 16 inch hemlock. You can see by the, right up in here, that's the hemlock. That's part of that tree. Broke off the other day. We were having about 40-mile-an-hour winds, and that hemlock tree broke off. I had one about 3 years ago that broke off as well. This is making me wonder whether these hemlock trees ought to be cut sooner than later. I was thinking about saving them, but now I'm thinking about maybe they should be cut, because we seem to lose them from the heavy winds. If you look at this tree house I built for the kids, at one point, this was my wife used to call this property Three Pines, because when you looked out the one window you could see 3 great big pine trees, and this was one of them. It was a hemlock. And this hemlock during a storm, you know, I said 3 years ago, but it's more like 5 or 6, because now I'm thinking about the age of the kids. When I built this, they were in their, I think, double digits, teen years, you know, young teens. But anyway, I built this little clubby for them on top of this hemlock stump that I cut, that had broken off. It actually broke off that high. I just leveled it up with a chainsaw and then put some braces under there. It's going to have to be taken down soon, and I'm going to use that. What I want to do is bring the backhoe in here, scoop underneath that, chain it to the backhoe, because it's not all that heavy, or to the front loader bucket, and see if I can't get it down on the ground without busting it up, because I can use that to store firewood. So I'm thinking about doing that this year. I wanted Carmine to help me this past year with it, but we had so much rain we just didn't get caught up with our work. But it's easy to get in here. I can get to it, and I think I can probably do that if nothing else. It ended up, because of not having the sawmill at the time, it ended up where I just left the log there lay, and I ended up cutting it up last year to see what the inside of it was like, and it was already pretty much bug infested. And you can see that the tree itself there's all kind of squirrels eating holes in this thing, woodpeckers are eating holes in it, and everything and anything that can get its way over here. So I really I'm not trusting its stability anymore. It was good at one point, and even the way I have it braced there, I just don't trust it anymore. So I think I'm going to, like I say, take it down this year. But I'm talking here now about the hemlock tree. You know, that hemlock tree was pretty nice. If you look there, you're looking at about a 16-inch tree that I could have got some nice boards out of, but apparently it just couldn't take it. So I don't know if the tree had what they call shakes, where the you know, the annual rings came apart from one another. I don't know if that's what the case was, but either way it went down. And then the other hemlock is right there. Now that's a pretty nice tree, and I could get some nice wood out of that. and I'm considering cutting it down, but I almost hate to cut it down because it does keep a lot of the wind from hitting the house. So anyway, it's just something I've been thinking about doing, but I'm not going to do it now today especially. And I do need somebody to help me with this, because once I get the loader bucket underneath the building, I want to stay in the backhoe while I'm controlling where that thing goes. But I want to put a chain all the way around it, or a strap to hook it to the loader bucket to pick it up. Now you're only, don't be misled by that, because you're only looking at 2, 4, 6 sheets of plywood, 2 bundles of shingles, and a couple 2x4s. That backhoe can easily, the loader, pick that up. So it's not like it's going to be, overpowering for me or anything. I just got to get it hooked up properly. But it just makes you wonder, should you harvest the trees a little early if they're hemlock, because the hemlock is so big and the needles are so small that it takes a lot of wind. It's a lot of wind is what it catches. So it's just a thought. From this point you can see what she used to call us 3 pines. There's 1, there's 2, and the third one was, where's that? The third one was where the building is there. I think it's right, yeah, I think it's right there. So that's why she used to call it 3 pines. Not to say that that's the only pines, because it's not, but they just stood out when she first saw the property.